experience of death in life. Scientifically, only by the process of elimination, we reach to the stage of unchanging permanent truth. In the same way, one finds that the soul is only permanent truth and reality that has existed before birth or life, and will remain after death when life ceases to exist. Soul has permanent relevance since it remains in the stage of samādhi, whereas other significant and powerful physiological and psychological constituents of human form like mind, intellect, and ego do not exist and get dissolved before emergence. Life and death has no meaning for the soul since it can neither die and nor can take birth. Life and death cannot provide any answer for salvation, since salvation revolves around soul, that is the mergence of soul with the supernal. In the span of life, a common man does not get any glimpse of death, as if there will not be the end of life and he will continue to live forever. Only the realized soul visualizes the end in every activity and feels or realizes that end or death will be the continuation of existence even after this life ceases to exist. The question of death bothers only to Jeevatma since it has to take rebirth to fulfill the worldly desires that has not been exhausted in this life. For soul there is no death, it is immortal as it was before the birth, and will remain unchanged after the death. Jeevatma carries memories of the past after death and looks forward to take birth for accomplishing and enjoying the sweet memories of the past life. Only enlightened souls become desireless in the present life, and for them death loses its significance since life without any cravings and desires is just like a death, and thus, life and death both lose their importance. Life and death are the two sides of the same coin for them. In every breath, they are dying as well as reappearing, and they know very clearly and intrinsically the mystery of death. Ātma or soul thinks about the Absolute. It gets absorbed into Absolute after getting relieved or separated as pure Ātma or soul. On the contrary, Jiva in more complex manner is involved in mindness and loses its purity during existence. Jeevatma thinks of relative Absolute. In the nutshell, Ātma or soul, Jiva, mind, Pragyatma and Jeevatma are closely linked with highly complex manner among themselves, and it is very difficult to apprehend their individual role in this divine play of the Almighty. Soul is absolute in Absolute, whereas Jeevatma acts through mind. For any tangible actions or results, mind becomes Chaitanya or conscious, and through consciousness, all actions or kriyas are carried out. In other words, actions desired by Jeevatma are planned by mind and executed by Chaitanya or consciousness under the force of kriya or action by the human ego. Soul is dormant and is covered by the various layers of Māyā or illusions, thus, it becomes relative Absolute, and so, its light is not projected through the Māyā. For the soul light, there is no birth and no death. It approaches to the horizontal level to give life to the body or form, and take the skyward journey to be with the supernal and come back to be with the body till the human life exists. Soul can play with life and death, however, there is no death for the soul. Thus, for the self-realized person who is living with the self or soul in the existing life, there is no death for him. Life and death both are the same for the self-realized person. He can experience death very closely being alive, as he wants. For a sadhaka, being in a manifested state and alive in the body or form, his evolution revolves around the desire for the unmanifested or death state, which is dialectically opposite to the living state, but after being self-realized, this dialectically opposite state vanishes, then he can be in both the states, or can be in any state as he wishes. No life, no death, no manifested and unmanifested states, all are the same for him. There is death only for the manifest identity, Jiva, and Māyā, but no death for the soul. For pure soul, there is no evolution and no travel is required. I-ness of the soul is Māyā, and soul when gets awareness of microcosm, it becomes part of the Māyā or illusion. The soul coupled with awareness or entangled with Māyā turns to be Jeevatma, and on the contrary, when Jeevatma loses awareness, it becomes pure soul. There is no life without awareness. It is a pivotal point for the understanding of life beyond death. Furthermore, if one loses awareness, he can experience death as life vanishes or disappears immediately. So, in samādhi, awareness disappears that leads to timelessness, then only one is with the spirit and he experiences death in these few minutes. However, as soon as awareness reappears, desirelessness vanishes, soul again is recoupled with Jiva and it comes under the control of Māyā. Nevertheless, experience of unawareness or death remains in a very feeble way in the mind of the Jiva. Absolute, the pure soul has no desire of any kind. As soon as desires prevail or appear, the creation of the cosmos commences, the manifestation starts. For the Absolute, this universe is a play as the net effect of his desires by his own light, which is beyond time, space and causation. This creation is as per the supreme will of the Absolute. Hence, Māyā, this creation, is not different from the source, the Absolute. Māyā is the part of the Supreme or Absolute. Relative thinking of the Almighty and His dynamism is through Māyā. Māyā is the source of His absolute manifestation, whereas Almighty is the unmanifested Absolute. Manifestation starts from Bindu or point, the unmanifested source, and ends up in the same Bindu or point. The great seers could not unfold this mystery of the Supreme. By His grace, only this mystery can be understood, since both Māyā and Absolute are by His grace only. In addition, both fulfillment and unfulfillment of all activities or desires are by His grace or will only. Life is not just feeling, emotion, breathing, eating, enjoying, it is in essence the silence in all activities in the manifested form. One needs to enter silence to be with the intrinsic life. It is possible when the consciousness of the life is withdrawn and put back into the Dahārā chakra, then only desires, feelings and manifestation of the mind disappear. When this is achieved, there remains no ichcha or desire, no kriya or action, and no dynamism, and then only soul light manifests and ignorance created by the Māyā is removed. This creates the silence of mind and its mergence with the soul light. This is the sole purpose of a human life. This anubhuti can be experienced through silence and silence only. Practice of silence is the approach to the enlightenment, and if it is achieved, the fear of death disappears. When consciousness is resided in the Dahārā, then only the query rises in the mind of the spiritual aspirant, who am I? With time, beyond words in the silence, one understands the mystery of awareness and unawareness, as well as various reactions of the consciousness. This only reveals the mystery of silence that is beyond the human apprehension. One understands easily that silence is the food of the soul, and soul along with the source light can suck it. Subtle ego is trapped when silence is fully established. Only silence can face and stand before the Almighty, and can communicate with the soul. Silence is not just the suspension of the breath, but it is the consciousness engrossed with the pure soul. After such achievements in life, there remains no fear of death. In fact, Jiva is scared of death, and it has its subconscious desire to live in the astral body even after the death. Now, it is very clear that what you are in the present life, the same remains after death. If Jeevatma is free from desires in this life, then only enlightenment prevails in this life and after death. Life is continuum even after death. Death releases soul as pure light or soul as existed in the active life. On the contrary, the release of Ātma or soul as Jeevatma is equally feasible when Jiva could not forget his past moorings during death, and dies with lot of unfulfilled desires and urges to fulfill all of them. Under these conditions, Ātma is not free after the death, and Jeevatma takes birth again to fulfill the unaccomplished desires. This is the sole cause of the rebirth of the Jeevatma. However, pure soul does not take rebirth. It merges in the Absolute, unless Almighty sends him to fulfill his purposes. Sometimes, Jeevatma is uplifted for the good and virtuous actions done in the lifespan before death, to the level of pure soul, because of the mercy and grace of the Almighty. Such souls are sent back on the earth by the will of the God. A few Jeevatma perform rituals after death in Parloka and live happily there with the Devas. In due course they take much superior birth on earth based on their karmas in the Pitraloka. A few Jeevatmas do penance in the Pitraloka to leave their desires, and repent for their wrong actions done in the lifespan before death. Such souls are allowed to live in Vasuloka and then promoted to live in Rudraloka, and exempted from the rebirth cycles, but they do not get mergence with the supernal. Some souls are sent to Adityaloka by the Almighty or Absolute in due course to allow them to take birth as the prophets on earth, and this is as per His wish to fulfill purpose as desired and designed by Him. Finally, in the nutshell, those who invite death of their own, they get total salvation. They follow Archida Marg and Dhumrajya Marga for salvation in their lifespan as per the ways and means given in Kathopanishad.